To proceed with the event, I would also like to introduce our first keynote speaker for the evening, Dr. Bikram Sekhon. He is a highly accomplished engineer specializing in town planning and land development with a profound expertise in water-sensitive urban development. With a PhD in town planning, he possesses a wealth of knowledge and experience in sustainable urban developmental practices. Driven by a passion for creating environmentally conscious and resilient communities, he has made significant contributions to the field of land development in Melbourne.
I'm very delighted that you invited me for this talk and given an opportunity to share my views with your audience. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
So thank you for giving time to me. And I believe most of you are the scientists and technical people. So my journey will be taking you something beyond the policy matter, something beyond the design, but of course, they are very much technical concern. My presentation is quite pictorial, and I have tried to bring some background details, some concept detail, and one of the wonderful case study, which is considered as one of the best living community here in Melbourne. I'm sorry, this is not... I hope you can...
Yes, sir. We can see your slides.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, I can see your screen. We cannot see the presentation now.
Can you see the...
Yes, yes.
Okay. So the Australian experience is primarily based on how the residential development and how the water is used to making or enhancing the life. One thing I just make it clear that in Australia, especially in Melbourne, we are using rainwater as a major source of water for drinking and daily purpose. The groundwater either is not good or is not used for most of the time. So we rely on a water conscious development, which is the best use of every drop of the water available around us. This is just a background area where you can see the population of Australia is very less as compared to if you consider Indian population. But we as a development industry see Indian population considered more in cities, and again, the major share of metropolitan cities are quite large if we see the overall urban population. If we see even here in Australia also, the two cities of Sydney and Melbourne consider considerable share of urban population. And we find that the city of Melbourne and city of Mumbai, where presently are you sitting now, is quite common because of their planning and design policies on the same principle. But it's very important to understand now that over the years, what happened that Melbourne has become in the last few years most livable city, and while Mumbai or many other later Indian cities are unable to achieve such status. So this presentation will also give us an insight to understand our broad policy and design approach and what techniques we can develop in order to make our cities better. This is just a broad concept how the Melbourne metropolitan area is. Primarily, the development is around network and how these networks we are developing as green networks. That is one of the area where the changes in policy and planning has been observed in last almost 2 decades. If you see broadly, try to make it conceptually clear. As we go into more micro details, we find there are more kind of activities at a local level. And when we go to the peripheral level or the city level, then the activities are quite broad in general. And in regional area, the context will be different. And similar approaches are adopted for Indian cities too. So obviously, we believe the current society where we are living primarily based on network and our cities connectivity and the economy related to them. But what is the new approach? This is the conventional approach that all over the world is used in city planning. But state of Victoria, if we feel they have taken the complex challenge of climate change involved in urban development and considered these networks as a source of area or as a part of green infrastructure development. So this is one of the priorities to develop green networks. So again, if I show you the same picture, Here, now these two parameters are very important. The network for us are basically the green networks. So when we say green network, it means it has a water sensitive techniques, it has the vegetation technique, it has the cooling environment, it has a better city look environment, and all these are embedded together in the form of urban design and urban planning. So the shift primarily is based on enhancing the urban quality, enhancing the landscape connectivity, and also developing towards resistance and our tolerance to the climate change. This is the factor which is nowadays very important and concern all of us. And to achieve the more city livable, we protect our green spaces on priority. We protect water sensitive urban design. We give greening of buildings, and we also make a permeable surfaces all over and calculate and use in the design data. We all know this is just a concept that why trees are important, and the 5 basic principles which we used in our planning. The 2 first are on policy matter. That is, we should have a places for trees. It's the wisdom if we know how to plant a tree and where to plant a tree. And then we also need to create a surrounding environment around a tree. And the second 3 points, if we see, they are more related to design. If there is a tree, we also need to provide a source of water, how the trees to be watered. And then we also need to provide a supporting infrastructure to create an activity and life around the trees. And obviously in the last part, which is more what we have achieved on the end of the day, which is more analysis, more objective is concerned. So based on these 5 parameters, we design our cities, and I will take further micro details that how these parameters are helping us to achieve a better environment. This is, I try to synthesize the whole system. The crux of the issue based on, we have a very strong digital monitoring system, for all the activities. And this is developed over, not a recent development, it's taken almost 3-4 decades to develop the whole network, where the universities, scientists, and the government departments, and the planners and the decision maker, and develop a policy, and that created a national environment science program. And of course, this was very much done and possible with the collaborative achievements of community and private organization. Since most of you are working in different organization, if we make a collaborative and integrated program like this, and we are able to achieve the better targets that we can develop here. I will show you how these programs are helping each other. So some of the common things that even we are doing here, also possible we have done in Indian cities, like vegetation cover detector, heat vulnerability index, and change of vegetation area, ecological sensitive area, but they're more on policy level. We have very much less achieved on the design and integrated approach level. If I show you some of the action programs which are mentioned here, these are very broad, and I'm keeping it very brief so that you can just detail out some of the areas. If anyone in the audience would like to detail out some of the action programs, I can detail out later. I also can send them the broad programs. Protect the resource, which is the species we have. Action 2, set targets. In every policy, in every design, make the objectives to achieve the environment objective. Scale up the greening areas so that we can increase the greening areas. Action 4, we need collaborations. We need integration among other areas. Then building a toolkit, then building a resource kit for each action group, even for the society. And then end, which is very important, the 6th action, fund. How to funding the various programs, which is done for all this area. If we integrate in all the key C aspects, 6 aspects, we can develop it a better program. Of course, we know that cities are, or sustainable cities are a global agenda. But what is the new approach in planning and urban planning and development? So this is the target that we achieve here, that we need to retain urban development within the urban landscape and managing the green areas, as I told in the initial state, in the network. And here I'm showing you some examples. This is a major highway that is passed through the city. And if you see in the city, all these highways have a strict land use control around it. And there is one of the easy way is to achieve the integrated natural areas with the development. We are very controlling the natural area, controlling the hierarchy of spaces. We are even also developing around a cycle tracks, around the walking tracks all around the highways. We are also developing around alternative transport modes. We are also developing around the if less car-based networks so that we can integrate with the other activities within these areas. This is just a snapshot that most of the town planners are using as various hierarchy level of roads. If you see, this is the arterial road network based for bus public transport. And then this transport is supported with a local level transport network. And with this local level transport network, we integrate with the cyclists, pedestrians, and also encourage them to put an activity in those areas so that we can develop the green spaces. And within green spaces, we try to create our movement pattern, and end of the day, these all enhance the sustainability of the area. Based on this concept, let's see how can we achieve in a residential estate. This is the broad network or plan of the north side of the city. You can see I have shown you one map which was showing the network plan, but this is the recent network plan which involve a lot of green areas around the network, which is on a regional scale. If you go to further into micro detail, I will tell within these networks how these WSUD, what we call water sensitive guidelines, are helping various areas. Now, as a concept in the natural area, a combination of soil, water, and vegetation, we are changing this pattern into a hard pattern of glass, concrete, and water. And with this transition, we are eliminating and changing a lot of chemical properties of the water, and how to achieve the best WSUD objective in a natural treatment process so that we can achieve the natural soil, water, vegetation combination. This is the scare box highlighted here. If you cannot read the text, is a stormwater train treatment. We treat the stormwater before reaching to the destination in such a way that we very less required its treatment later on. So when the water is passed through the cyclic process, it's treated at every aspect, every stage. The first part of train treatment is like the rain is falling on the roof of a house, it is stored in the tank, and from the home rain garden, it passed through the street. And then street has the grass polluted, and then again street has the swales, which again try to absorb more nitrogen, more phosphorus, and solid waste into it. And then the third step, it comes to the set pond. In the set pond, you'll find a lot of silt is settled down, and then we create wetlands. Wetlands are created with the set standards. I will show you some of the combination of some of the plants, some of the details, that how the wetlands are integrated part of urban development. This is just one slide that will help you to understand the life cycle, basically based on time and cost involved. So what I mean to say that the cost of green infrastructure is also integrated at part of the project. The project is not designed in isolation, rather green infrastructure is also included, including the maintenance, including in the last cost, if we are to remove some of the infrastructure or decommission some of the activities, that is also part of the cost. This stormwater perception seems a complex situation, but it's very simple. I try to develop it what is the core, what is the heart. So the heart is the combination of trees, water, land or soil particles, and a perfect combination within these. And when we develop the gray area, which is primarily the used area, so that has to be designed in such a way that we are able to achieve the previous aspect of which is like natural environment in that area. Let's see further. A residential estate I have selected in the northern area, which is a neighborhood area. If you see, this is the small arrows in the roads are the viewpoints, are the linking activity points that are affecting the environment. And all around this residential development, there are natural creeks, nalas, around which we develop an integrated manner. If you further zoom into small areas, you'll find the more detailed, more integrated green areas along the urban creek bodies. And when we go into the road areas, we find there are further elements which affect our green infrastructure. So road is not designed as a movement for vehicles. Rather, road is also a water carrier channel. How this water carrier channel along with the green infrastructure, let's go to a cross-section and detailed design of a residential area. This is a largest residential area where you can see the area around creek is developed and earmarked for all the natural flow that has to be considered. Now, the chemical and biological property of the creek are studied in detail. And once we go into detail analysis, the water from the paved areas are enter in small catchment. Each residential area is divided into small catchments, and then each catchment is designed in such a way to know, and roads and streets are designed in such a way that water can reach to the creek in an efficient manner. If you see, this is the first part is to monitor the existing health of the water body. If any development is occurring around an area, the first step is to nominate the water body. We study the chemical properties, we study the biodiversity, we study the life in the water life in that area, and the policies are designed that within the development, the pre-life has to achieve with the development. If we are unable to achieve the pre-development health, then it means something wrong in the development scenario. So it means a lot of scientific studies and technical studies are done before any development activity is occurring in that area. This is the rainfall patterns are very rigorously monitored. The climate change data with the behavioral changing patterns are also included. Any local consideration of the soil, vegetation, geology, geography, and any vegetation which is important for microclimate, any vegetation which is native in nature, they are part of the decision making before making a development. This is just one screenshot showing that how the development is integrated, and all the color shades are integrated in the sizes. And I will further zoom into one of the street areas, which will give you that one street, these colors patterns are indicating the water flow catchment area of each street, how the water from houses are entering into street, and then we design our infrastructure according to these small catchment areas. Each catchment area is numbered, and each catchment area is numbered according to the house value. I'll come next. If you see, this is one of the detail of the catchment area, where the flow pattern from each street, each house is monitored. The street levels are designed in such a way that water can accumulate through the road and ultimately reach to the desired point of the wetland. If we see, these are the prime networks. And if you see, there are certain mentioned wetland 1 and wetland 2. If I go to the previous slide, these are the streets, and then these wetland 1 and 2 are fed by those catchment areas generated from those residential areas. It means in any development, there could be within this development about 10,000 houses. There are likely to have 7 or 8 wetlands within those areas. So it means all these houses are the water is generated through various levels of treatment, reaching to the wetland and then reaching to the river to feed in a natural way. So this is one of the example. If you see with all the planning, if you see there is in the bottom, the wetland has been developed, the roads and streets have been designed, and all whatever we have planned, and ultimately the water is reaching. How this water is purified, I'm giving you some more localized and micro scale based examples. First of all, you need to understand this is the cross section of a road. From a environment point of view or from a green infrastructure point of view, the road is designed as a water carrier. You see, the road has setbacks, the road has a natural strip, road has a footpath, road has a cycle track, but road also has a pavement, which is the concrete area. But that pavement is designed to cater the water along with the vehicles and other areas. This is one example. This is one of the example of a street and one vacant house. This is ultimately what is achieved, and this is available in a Google Street Map. If you can I will send you the link. You can see how actually this is happening. So the curb on the side, if you can see, there is a pit in front of the home. So that pit is a water absorbing pit, and the green area in front of the house is the natural area that is supposed to absorb a lot of the green runoff from this area. And when we see, this is the cross section of a road. road has on the side in the green area or all the infrastructure below it. The levels of the road, the camber, the slope, the directions, all is designed based on a particular rainfall pattern, and a particular flood modeling is done that how much water can be carried below the design infrastructures. This is just for clarification and further zoom into those areas. There are stormwater, there are water supply areas, there are non-drinkable water pipes also. There are 5 or 6 types of infrastructure that run along it. And most of this also has a green infrastructure to absorb all the runoff and all the other elements available within those in the surrounding areas. If you see, this is a local street pattern. I will focus some of the key elements within this. You can see these numbers. There is a cut and fill plan. There is a level control plan. There is a pipe and detail plan. If I go to the previous street, you can see all the houses has a number, all the houses has an area, all the houses has a level control system. So the whole residential area is designed in a strictly level control system, because we have to carry the stormwater from a property to the street, from a street, one end of the street to the another end, and from another end to up to the creek. So everything is designed, all these numbers are the existing level, proposed level, or any building level is required that is fixed at initial stage, so that water cannot pond or water cannot stagnate within those areas. You can see all these cut and fill areas, all these if there is pedestrian or other infrastructure, they are initially decided in a well integrated manner. This is the plan of a house. Even the right side plan, you can see there is a backdrop, open area, and how the open area sloping towards the paved area. And from this pavement area, the water is entering on the street, and street is also leveled. And these levels are strictly followed, and rest of the life, like next 200 years, 500 years, these levels will not change. The level of the road and street is a legal document, a legal number that is fixed, and it cannot change. And it is verified periodically after so many years that if the level is changed, because it will disturb the whole surrounding area. This is one of the key examples where I've tried to just graphically represent. If you see in first picture, car and a pipe is below, and if the size of the drain below is not adequately designed, you will be in the middle picture. And if we are designing a street, designing a house slope, designing the size of the drain in such a way, we will achieve the third level picture position. So the principle is we are able to achieve the third level position. Idea is to avoid the second level position so that we can make our system clean out, clear the blockage, stop the erosions, and make a third level scenario. Similarly, if there is a multi-story development, for a single story development, our underground infrastructure is minor. Like if there is a multi-story development, then the underground green infrastructure also has to increase. And for a commercial area, if you see in the middle area, we also need an open channel to support that whatever natural, whatever impervious is generated, that pass through the open channel and ultimately go through the creek. And those streets which are close to in the third picture, which we call it parkland area, parkland section, those streets which are close to the road, a creek or natural body, they are also given such as direction of flow so that water can directly enter into the creek. So it means whatever topography available, whatever geography available, if we are creating our built environment, that is also following a certain topography, certain design, so that it can be implemented. Let's see the cross section of a road. This is a road. In a road, we have on the left side, you find two black dots, means they are the catching pits. And in the right side, all the connecting infrastructure in the sag and crown has to create in such a way that water can flow interconnected with each other. So the fall of land, the road is also sloped according to the detailed plan. And if you see the further development, now I can make some concluding remarks out of this. So we have to make cut and fill plan. Then we have to project estimates and budgets. Then involve strategic planning and how much widths we require. And then we design intersections, and then we standardize it. And based on these two, we design road components and pavement, but also including the natural element within those areas. When we achieve this, the same residential area, you can see the two wetlands at the base and all the design parameter right from a house, from an intersection, from a corner, it is achieving to the end. And from those two wetlands, they are achieving going into the creek. I will show you a wetland detail concept plan too. So this is the concluding slide here. Which is primarily for marketing of in those areas. And if we see that within this marketing environment, landscape, strategic planning, engineering, all has to added, and then we create a valuation for the infrastructure fund. Of course, these all are integrated with the finance and business targets. And end of the day, in India, most of the urban development is primarily through change of land use and EDC rules, and they are coordinated in planning and development scenario. One of the slide picture, if you see from the pit, which was in the beginning, I'll show you here. Related to the wetlands. Just bear with me. This is the slide that you can see. So this is the detailed design of, just for information, this is the detailed design component within the wetland. There are also a microphyte zone. There are also chemical treatments through the vegetation. There are also a sediment pond and other design parameters that involve in a wetland to make it a fully functional within the urban development area. So that was the last part. And if you have any question or any suggestion, you can let me know so that I can answer your queries.
For such an enlightening session and for emphasizing on the topic sustainable neighborhoods, I'm sure your expertise and passion will strive all the participants to create a sustainable future for all the generations, while also where the neighborhoods can thrive while minimizing the ecological impact. I'm sure there are a lot of questions flooding in. I request the applicants or the participants to please write to us in the chat box, and then we can proceed. To the jury, patron and advisory members, please feel free to ask questions to Dr. Sekhon, and also the partners.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Presentation was really nice and insightful, and I have some questions. What you mainly tree watering, what you mentioned, and the main concept, what I understood, is making the water from my home should reach to the wetland, so that the wetland can absorb the water and the ground level water has to be increased. As a common man, I'm asking this question. Don't take me otherwise. This is a concept that you are explaining it, and it has been designed well, and the minute details, slope and consideration, all these things are very detailedly explained. These are logical things that you have taken care. But I could not understand one thing is tree watering. You mentioned tree watering.
Tree watering it. Yes, actually, because of the time left, I have just touched some of the areas. First thing I tell you, the purpose is not to take water to the creek. The aim here is to use 80% water within the residential area. The downstream creeks doesn't have much capacity to absorb extra water, number one. Second aim is to allowing a fresh water, which is pre-development stage, that is to be achieved. It means with urban development, when we develop our roads infrastructure, most of the water is non-drinkable. Our aim is to allow the water in a drinkable. The one of the parameter indicator is the insects, for example, frog life in the creek. What was before the development, and it should have the same after the development. That is aim, that is objective. Now, watering the trees, there is a separate non-drinkable network. We call it water harvesting approaches. what happened within those creek and the sediment pond and other area, we repump those water to feed the creeks and other infrastructures. So the idea is there is a separate network. We are also developing a special kind of pits along the roadside, what we call curbside. That these are called hydration pits in front of houses, and those pits has a filter into it. They pits a certain permeable or impermeable median around it, and they giving water recharging to the roots. So in Australia, it's mostly the drought country, but Melbourne and Victoria has a lot of rain. So our idea is to save the water and use it judicially, either for recycling. We drink water saved in our tank, and then this water is also used for vegetation and recycled for greening the grounds, infrastructure, lawns, and other areas.
I got my answer.
I can show you some of those pits which are designed to
Yeah.
absorb water along the roadside.
Because I work on a plantation and other things.
Okay.
The main objective why I asked this question is a tree is not only just a vegetation or carbon dioxide, it is the main source of taking water back to the ground. The
Yes,
root
yes.
system is developed in such a way that the water, wastewater, whatever we call it as a waste, it is a nutrition to many other
Yeah.
ground level insects or many biotic creatures.
Yes.
The roots will help us. That's the reason you would like to make it as a watering. Tree watering is not just a tree watering what we water day to day. Tree watering is indirectly we are making our groundwater level increase, and the temperature is maintained. Thank you very much. It was very useful. Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah,
it was a wonderful question. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for the audience to know, Vijay Kumar Katti happens to be our last year's winner in the individual category. Thank you, Vijay ji, for joining us. And now we can move to the next segment by, I would request Dr. Shekhan, if you could be with us throughout the session for the award ceremony as well.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you for
I'm
your
here.
time.
I'm
and
here
support.
next 2 hours. Don't worry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks.
sir. Thank you. Thank you.